Michael John, Michael John. That was a sound that always told me that I was going to be in trouble for something. That was the sound that my mother would make when, of course, I was doing something I wasn't supposed to. So I imagine many of you have had to deal with that. And therefore, that your parents will use your first and middle name with emphasis, telling you, I know something that you did. So with that, my name is Michael Garner. Welcome. I'd like to tell you a little bit about my upbringing and about a little bit of my freakish culture. So, first and foremost, first thing I'd like to let you know about is some of the spirituality, some of the religious upbringing, especially from my mother's side, that came into my life. The second thing would definitely be some of the teachings from my grandfather, which the first and foremost was due to partially indirectly from him, but was that understanding that you don't take family, you don't take those people that are important in your life for granted. And then the third thing that I'd like to go ahead and share with you about my family, about my upbringing, is that understanding that my grandfather helped me to have about death, and about the fact that that within death that there is life, and that kind of ties into the spiritual, but also is a little bit of a deeper understanding than just the spiritual that the Catholic Church brought me. So, first and foremost, I was raised Catholic. My mother was Catholic, my father was Southern Baptist. So this was an interesting combination, and so I was raised pretty much in the church under my mom. In fact, at one point in time, I was actually studying to be a Catholic priest. My junior year in high school, at which point in time I also figured out that the whole vow celibacy thing was not really going to work for me too well, and that girls were kind of important. So that kind of nixed that whole process right there. But my mother accepted the choices that I made, eventually to look at becoming a priest and eventually go other directions. As long as you lived a good moral life, my mother was always behind and supported that spiritual understanding. So, with that, number two, and that's also my grandfather. My grandfather was an outstanding man. He was my mother's stepfather. And so, just like myself, who was not technically blood part of the family, him and I related very well. And unfortunately, at the age of 14, when he did pass, the lesson that he gave to me at that point was the lesson of not taking family or people that are important to you for granted. I had a week during the summer to spend with him when he came up, and unfortunately I chose to spend it with friends and to doing other things that 14-year-olds do at the time. He passed 3 months later, and I carried a lot of that for a very long period of time, until I realized that that was a lesson that he gave me, to not take these people for granted, to spend the time when they're there, all right, so that you never have those regrets in life. And since that point in time, I have never experienced that again. The last lesson and the last thing that my grandfather gave to me was that understanding of death, and that with death, when they do pass, it's an understanding that they go to another world, that they're still there with us, and not only are they there with us, but still watching over us. And so with that, I look at it and I understand now, through his teachings and also the teachings of the native spirituality, is that they go somewhere else watching over us, and that we continue to live in a good way, so that we give not only honor to ourselves but honor to them as our ancestors and as our elders that passed before us. So with that, we look at it, three outstanding lessons that were given to me in life is that strong spiritual understanding that no matter what you're doing, and if you're going in a correct direction, you're living a good moral life, it'll be accepted by the people that love you, even if it's not necessarily their religion. And that was from my mother. From my grandfather, I had that understanding that we never take for granted those people that are important to us, because we don't know how long they'll actually be with us. And that's something, so we don't have regrets by not spending that time with them when we should have. And then the last lesson is that lesson and that understanding that those that pass are still with us. They still live with us, and we carry them with us, and that we give honor to them through the way that we live, and so that we should live our lives in a good way. Chief Seattle actually said it one of the best ways, and one of the ways that has the most meaning to me in life in dealing with death. And that is simply that there is no death. There's only a change of worlds. And so we want to make sure that because they're still watching from those other worlds, they would live a good life and live up to what they would have expected us to. So with that, Thank you very much.